Yo, what's going on, guys? Jared here. Today, I wanted to talk about Fire King, and specifically, I wanted to talk about Fire King for the YCS this weekend, which I believe is YCS Bogota over in Europe. This is going to be a very impactful format because this is going to be the first tournament where Fire King is going to be legal, as well as the United States is not having any, or North America is not having any YCSs, or a lot of YCSs until like January, I believe. So this YCS is going to set a precedent for the upcoming month of the format until we get Phantom Nightmare, which is the following set. But I'm not talking about the format right now. I specifically want to talk about Fire King for that event. How good is Fire King going to be for that YCS? Well, a lot of people are saying this is going to be pretty damn good, and there's a lot of hype behind it, and I kind of want to break down my thought process behind it and why I think it is where it stands. Mainly, I wanted to talk about the cards that we don't have yet. And if you enjoyed this discussion, please subscribe really quick. Anyway, so this is the first place list that was in Japan for their tournament that everybody has been hyping up, which is the Fire King Sinful Spoils Snake Eye deck. It had all of the Sinful Spoils, Snake Eyes, and Fire King cards in it. Really, really good. But there's important things that we are missing here. I want to go over the cards that are not in here because they make a big, big difference in this deck, and I think that it takes the power level so much lower to where it should be and where it's not a meta threat right now. So the three cards, the three main ones that are here. The first one is Promethean Princess, Bestower of Flames, and as you can see, he played 2 copies in his extra deck. What this card does is improves fire decks exponentially. And I say that without the faint of heart. And you can also play this in non-fire decks, which is also even crazier to me. But this card reads as follows: with only 2 effect monsters, while it's in the field, you can't summon except for fires. You can only use each of the effects once per turn. During your main phase, you can special summon a fire from your graveyard. Extremely generic. Most of the time when you're making this, you can have a fire in the graveyard, of course. If a monster is special summoned your opponent's field while this is in the graveyard, you can target 1 fire you control and 1 monster your opponent controls, destroy them, and special summon itself back. So what this does is, 1, it acts as an interruption in your graveyard, and 2, can also trigger your Fire King cards that you have on the field already, which is ridiculous. This synergizes with a lot of different strategies, but obviously mostly Fire Kings. And without this card, which should be coming out in Phantom Nightmare, it really, really turns down the deck's end boards, and because it adds another layer of multi-interruption boards because it's in the graveyard. Usually interruptions are on the field, so usually there's monster interruptions and you can have spell interruptions. This one being in the graveyard really makes it kind of annoying to deal with and frustrating at times to deal with. So, and very easy to trigger too, just for your opponent to special summon a monster. Very, very strong. So I think this is extremely, extremely good, and because we don't have it, I think this is a huge step down for the Fire King strategy. Next up, Bonfire. Just very simple. Add a level 4 lower pyre from deck to hand. You can only use 1. Now, you're probably thinking the Fire King deck doesn't play any pyro monsters to really search for the strategy, so why would this even be good? This is where it kind of comes together more with the other Snake Eyes Populous, which also comes out in Phantom Nightmare. Bonfire, I believe, does not come out in Phantom Nightmare. If I remember correctly, it comes out later, but Populous does come out in Phantom Nightmare. If it's added to the hand except by drawing it, you can special summon it via Bonfire. If this card is normal or special summon, you can add 1 Snake Eye Spell Trap from your deck to your hand. As you know, the Snake Eye Spell Traps are extremely powerful. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target a fire monster in your graveyard and place it in your owner's Spell and Trap zone as a continuous spell. The reason why this is so good is because it can target itself. That makes a huge, huge difference and allows 1-card combinations to happen where you can do a full Fire King combo with just Snake Eye cards. So, because of these cards' existences, we have new lines and opened up here for us. As you can see, he's playing a full Snake Eye Sinful Spoils package with the Black Witch, the Dragon, 3 Ash, 2 Pompous over here, 3 of the Wanted, and then 1 of the original Sinful Spoils. And this package adds so many 1-card starters. It's like 6 to 8 1-card starters that you just get for free because the level 1 Fire King is a searcher, and there's so many multiple ways to get to it, and it does so much for the deck. So without those cards, I think that is going to bring the tier of this deck down a lot. But other than that, the ratios here I think are really important, and we can take a lot from it for the TCG when we get it imported here. But I think for these cards, I think we're going to have to play a completely different version. Is that version going to be as good as this version that we have? In my opinion, no, I do not think so. I think that the Snake Eye package really, really adds a huge layer of, 1, interruption, because it lets your Fire Kings do more if you don't have to search for always certain cards, if that makes sense. Like, you can be able to get to the baby Garunix and have this Fire King, which is a monster Omni Negate, to play through stuff. Also, if they interact with maybe the Bellstar, the Ash, you have more ways to play around it, because if they use Ash on Ash, you could use like Bonfire to add Pompous to special, and then you still have like a full combo without doing it. Also, these are all free bodies for the Fire Princess to summon itself and to set itself up in the graveyard with the Link 4 machine that we have here. All of this together makes an entire new deck that we are not going to have when this comes out. So in my personal opinion, and my take for this, is that this deck is not going to be good for this upcoming YCS. I think this deck is actually going to be pretty bad. I would put it at like a tier 2 level, maybe. The Fire Kings do not offer, sadly yet, a lot of interruption interaction that we are vaguely missing. And this card has a huge level of interaction that we do not have yet. And then there's also other things in here where they have interruptions. Like I believe the Exceed monster and the Kieran are also levels of interruption. But a big part of their format is Max C. And I feel like this is something that, when we're looking at OCG deck lists, can be talked about, was that their format sometimes can be slower because they have Max C in it, and Max C resolves. They have to turn. It's almost, it can be a turn skip. And this is a very good mid-range strategy where you can set up small interruptions to your opponent's turn, even through a Max C, and still be in a pretty reasonable position, if that makes sense. You need to be able to hold your own in these scenarios, and as you can see, they're still playing all the Max C counters with the Call by the Graves, the Crossout Designator, and the Ash Blossoms, all the counter Max Cs while playing it themselves, so it makes a big difference in their format. Here is the side deck for this deck list, by the way. Soul Release is seeing play over there now, just to counter this deck, but I think there's another deck this counters too for a meta trend. I'm not positive on OCG, like 100% meta, but I know that this card's seeing play. It's been going up in price as well if you have super copies. But yeah, and then like more hand traps just for more generic stuff. Hand traps are always good in like pretty much every format. Back row removal with the Cosmic Harpies, and then we have Talon's Thrust, and then going first cards like T-Barrier and Anti-Spell. So again, Fire Kings for this upcoming YCS and this exact current format, not really it. Moving forward, once we get Phantom Nightmare, or once we get Bonfire released in the TCG, this deck becomes a very serious meta contender. That's where this deck becomes a serious meta contender. It's going to take some time for TCG players to figure it out a little bit, but Fire King might not even be the best answer for this deck. It might even be something like Rescue Ace could overpower this deck. We just have to wait and see. But that is just my opinion. Let me know what you think down in the comments. This is going to be an exciting YCS, and I cannot wait to watch it and see what happens. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.